Hello and welcome back to the Northern Lights Sportscast. With me today I have Cody and Dash. Today we are going to continue our discussion from last time where we talked about the NFC edition of the 2023 NFL Draft. Today we're going to talk about the AFC side of things. And we are going to start today with the Cincinnati Bengals and their draft class. Cody, would you like to say anything to start with the Bengals?
Bengals pretty much had a pretty good draft class this year. They got Miles Murphy from Clemson, a very good defensive end. DJ Turner from Michigan, a very good cornerback. They kind of seemed to focus early on defense in the first couple of rounds. And then in the sixth round, they got a punter from Michigan with Brad Robbins.
Yeah, another rare one with drafting a punter in the draft. Something I'll highlight before I hand it over to Dash. Another FCS another FCS player went in the draft for the Bengals. Andre Oswivas from Princeton in the late sixth round. Dash, you got any thoughts on the Bengals draft class?
Two players that I thought in particular in this draft are their third and fourth round picks. Jordan Battles, safety from Alabama, probably the second best safety behind Brian Branch in this draft. And they needed that because they just lost Jesse Bates, so they definitely needed a replacement for him. And then one of the sleeper wide receivers who I had watched in college, and I knew that this guy was going to be an NFL caliber talent. It's just where was he going to go? Charlie Jones, wide receiver from Purdue. Very good, tall wide receiver. I think he can make a lot of noise on the Cincinnati offense that already has Jamar Chase, Higgins, and Boyd. I think that wide receiver room just got a lot more dangerous.
Yeah. Yep, two wide receivers in the draft and a punter, a bunch of defensive players. I think the Bengals did exactly what people had kind of hoped they would in the draft. Clean up some of the spots they were looking for. With the Bengals are right now, they really don't need a ton of help from the draft, one could say. They obviously filled the needs that they have, free agents and such, but did what they needed to do. So, all right, on quickly we move to the Baltimore Ravens. And one could say that even though they only had 6 picks this year, they really had more than that because they actually signed their franchise QB again. Lamar Jackson re-signed with the Ravens.
Most paid quarterback now.
Yep. He didn't get his initial stuff he wanted, but it was still more. Hey, Cody, I know you got some things you want to talk about here. You want to talk about the Ravens draft class?
Ravens first round pick, Zay Flowers, is the person that I kind of wanted. I thought the Vikings were going to go after. See him go off the boards was right before. Was the Ravens 2 before us or 1?
They were one before you because he was the third receiver taken.
Yeah,
I was going to say he was right before him. I kind of only knew. I kind of forgot about Addison. I thought there was only 3 good first-round wide receivers, but when we picked up Addison, that was pretty nice. But I've thought Zay Flowers is going to be the wide receiver the Vikings will go after. He's a pretty good wide receiver, and from probably a college that's not very well known for football, Boston College.
Mm-hmm. Probably not a big, not a remarkably well-known player from that college since probably Matt Ryan.
Yeah. Wait, Matt Ryan went there? Boston College?
I knew that was coming.
Learning everything today, Cody. I am. Yeah, I think they had a good draft. They didn't have a lot of picks, kind of like the Vikings in that way. They didn't really have a lot of picks to choose from. But with what they did have, I think they did well enough. The Ravens can always use help at the receiver and pass catching positions potentially. It always seems they're a little short of what they should have. So it's good they drafted a wide receiver in that first round. They didn't really do much though to help. Their next offense-minded pick was their tackle in the 6th round. I am not gonna attempt to pronounce his name. I don't want to butcher it. So, but the tackle Oregon.
Mala Esala Amove Lalu.
This is why we pay Dash.
Yep. This is why Dash is here. And then they got a guard out of USC in the 7th round, and that pick was from the Browns.
I personally, the Ravens kind of got the big win that they needed this offseason in re-signing Lamar Jackson. I don't think their focus was too heavy on the draft at this time. They had kind of
Yeah.
had to focus on how are they going to get Lamar Jack back. And we also kind of forget about their big free agent pickup, Odell Beckham Jr.
Yep.
Of all the
I
places
forgot
that
about
he
it.
could have gone, would not have expected him to go to the Ravens. But I
Yeah.
guess that was before really there was much thinking too that Lamar was going to come back. So at the same when that happened, when they got Odell, I was really confused. I was just like, why are they signing him? Like, why would he want to go there? They don't really have a plan for quarterbacks. So then it kind of hit me like maybe they are getting closer to negotiations with Jackson.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, on we move to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers hope to change their fortunes this year, maybe head back to the playoffs. Um, they had 7 picks this year. Quite a variety of picks. You know, they did pick 2 cornerbacks. You know, they picked one of what I thought was going to be the top cornerbacks in the draft, in Joey Porter Jr. in the second round. Dash, you want to talk about their early round picks?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall they had an amazing draft. I think their first 5 players that they selected can be absolutely quality players in this league. Broderick Jones, great blindside tackle. They need help on that O line, especially with a new quarterback in Kenny Pickett, and Najee Harris needs a line to run behind. Joey Porter Jr. Not too much of a shock to me that he got picked by Pittsburgh, considering his father was a great linebacker for that team back in the 2000s. And then Keanu Benton, nose tackle from Wisconsin. I saw a lot of him since I've watched a lot of Wisconsin football. I saw a lot of him with the Badgers. Very good run stuffer. He can also rush the passer as well. Great defensive player. And then in the third round, they got Darnell Washington, tight end out of Georgia, who, was sliding forever, we thought. And we thought he was going to get picked, a round and a half before that, but he just kept falling. And it's like, who's going to take him eventually? Pittsburgh ends up taking him. It'll be a good 1-2 punch at tight end with Pat Freiermuth. And then finally, Nick Herbig, outside linebacker from Wisconsin. And I really love Nick Herbig back at Wisconsin. A very, very good pass rusher and a very underrated pass rusher at that. I think he can help with TJ Watt. Speaking of TJ Watt, boy, Pittsburgh sure does love their Wisconsin defense players. We talk about Georgia or Philadelphia with their Georgia players. I think we should call Pittsburgh the Pittsburgh Badgers with that defense.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
either that
they already have TJ Watt and Isaiah Loudermilk on that defense.
that or Pittsburgh, the Big Ten players, because there's only 2 players in this draft in their class that did not come from Big Ten school. So.
And they both came from Georgia.
Yep. But yeah, I don't really got a lot to say about the Pittsburgh class. Cody, you got anything on the Steelers?
Nothing really. You already kind of mentioned Porter Jr. All I know is Urinating Tree was very happy for the O-line tackle in the first round pick. Dang it. I can't talk.
All right then. Let's move on to the bottom of the AFC North, the Cleveland Browns. Their draft class, another 7 picks. Good variety, although obviously they did not have a first or second round pick this year. I think a lot of that was from the trade for Deshaun Watson, I believe, right, guys?
Yep. 2 of those picks were in the Watson trade, and then the second round pick was in the Elijah Moore trade to the Browns.
Oh, yeah.
Or I mean to the Jets, excuse me.
Yeah.
Or from the Jets.
Yeah, I got what you're saying. Potentially either, I see here like maybe a project quarterback or somehow the quarterback of the future. I think they plan on trying to have the Watson around there for a while, but Dorian Thompson-Robinson from UCLA, a guy that kind of flew under a lot of people's radar towards the end of the year, but a very good quarterback in his own. At UCLA, that pick was from the Rams, but something you see rarely of for whatever reason. A Missouri defensive end in the late fourth round for the Browns, Isaiah McGuire. Should hopefully pan out well for them. You guys got anything else?
Big pick for them, I think, was their first pick that they had, Cedric Tillman, wide receiver out of Tennessee. They definitely need some wide receiver help. Their offense was good last year, but they still need another wide receiver to complement Amari Cooper. They did also get Elijah Moore from the Browns, and now they got Cedric Tillman, so that wide receiver room should be pretty much fixed. Now it's just a question of can that defense get fixed from last year, because defense was a big issue for them last year. Of course, the big win for them was firing Joe Woods. So now they got a new defensive coordinator, and hopefully that can fix some things.
Yeah, yeah. Cody, you got anything on the Browns?
I was gonna say Tillman was a very good wide receiver for Tennessee. There, him. I forget the last guy. Dang nabbit.
Talking about Hooker?
Yeah, no, the other wide receiver.
Yeah.
Cedric Tillman?
No, the other one.
The other Tennessee
from
wide
Tennessee
receiver.
receiver.
Oh, Jalen Hyatt.
Yeah. Those two I thought were pretty good talents, and I thought we're going to go in the second round. I was kind of surprised to see them go down in the third, but it was nice to see them get off the board with their their final season at Tennessee ending on a high with how well Tennessee did this last season.
And they went back-to-back picks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Well, all right. I suppose we can move on to the next division. We're going to move on to the AFC South. We're going to start with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jags, I'm sure, would hope to build on what they discovered last year. I mean, that big comeback win over the Chargers at home, and then the loss to the Chiefs in the divisional round. I would hope they're going to want to try and rebound from that. But here's our draft class. Another really high draft pick class. Same as the Packers did, 13 picks. Gosh, they had a lot of picks. You guys want to start it off?
I kind of don't remember who the Jaguars picked. Like, they weren't in the big stories at all this year for the draft.
No, they had a lot of picks. They flew really under the radar with that. I didn't realize before writing this how many picks they truly had. They had a lot of picks for a team that actually made the division round of the playoffs last year. So
I will say they got to be happy with their first overall pick because their O-line was struggling, and Anton Harris was a very good O-line tackle from Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, that was their big pick this year. And they were a team that really didn't have a focus on like a player that they needed to go get. They just need to retool certain positions because even though they made the divisional round last year, you have to remember this is still a team that's trying to recover from the Urban Meyer era. So they're still trying to fix some things in that organization, and getting a lot of players this year should help with that. They also, a little quick fun fact here, drafted the only fullback in this draft, Derek Parrish out of Houston.
Much to my dismay.
I would say that era really cost them a lot for just being 1 year.
It really did. They got rid of a lot of players that year that really could have been useful for them right now. So they're trying to clean up a lot of things. So in that respect, Dash mentions it makes a lot of sense how many picks they have. And they really were all over the place, too, with who they picked. I mean, they got a running back.
I love the name, Tank Bigsby.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I enjoyed that. And then they also got a wide receiver out of Penn State. I think they really needed somebody out wide again this year.
I will say one of
her
her friends is probably happy with their 7th round, 9th pick from App State, Cooper Hodgins.
Yeah, we have a friend from App State. Yeah. There is another App State pick coming up in somewhere in the next couple of teams, but yeah. So a lot of different players from the draft. Guys, any final thoughts on the Jaguars draft?
No, not really.
Right.
I mean,
hopefully Tank is a tank and it can run over some players.
I mean, they did what they needed to, just collect some players and try to fix what's going on.
Yeah. All right, now we move to the Tennessee Titans. They hope to be better than the dumpster fire they've been even though they've made the playoffs the last several years, they've been a complete dumpster fire.
They didn't make it this last year.
Yeah. Potentially, they may have drafted their quarterback that they're going to be looking at for a while now, Will Levis out of Kentucky.
That's what they said last year.
Pick. Yeah, so hopefully they hope to change that, change their fortune there. Something I want to highlight, too, before I hand it over is they drafted another one of the lone FCS players in this draft, the wide receiver Colton Dowell out of UT Martin with their 7th round pick. Guys, you want to take over?
I'll let you go first, Dash.
I mean, they didn't have a lot to work with this year, and this is a team unlike Jacksonville. Jacksonville was on the upswing. They got a lot of potential. Tennessee kind of reaching the end of their current era, and now it's a question of which whether or not they can keep Derrick Henry around. But as for their draft, they definitely got a solid tackle in Peter Skoronski, probably the best offensive lineman in the draft overall. They needed to replace Taylor Lewan, who's gone now, who was a face of that franchise for a long time. And it's kind of funny that they got Will Levis at 33. A lot of people thought they might pick him at 11, but they got him anyways. So see what they can do with that. Probably let him sit behind Tannehill for a little while. But overall, like I said, not a lot they could work with. They drafted all offense, which is actually kind of rare these days
Yeah.
in the NFL. You don't see a team not pick a defensive player at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did they release Willis, or is Willis still on the team?
Malik Willis?
He's still there,
Yeah.
but there's rumors that he could be released soon.
Yeah, because I don't know if anybody's going to want to trade for him. So,
well, maybe with that third emergency quarterback rule, he
maybe.
could still come in handy.
I don't know if he'll be that low. He might be more of a practice squad guy, but yeah. What was I gonna say? I don't know. Oh, I was gonna mention with the quarterbacks. Yeah, there was a couple that fell a little further than we thought. You know, Hendon Hooker fell all the way to the third round. There were a lot of mock drafts that thought that all all 4 or 5 of these quarterbacks would be gone by at least the top of the second round. I mean, and then the fact that, you know, Will Levis fell to the second round. There were, I remember ESPN's FPI, they said on that night was like, there was 0.01% possible that Will Levis was going to slide all the way to the second round. They all thought he was going to get picked in the first round, but
whoever made the bet that Will Levis is going to be in the second round, hey, you made a lot of money.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. So, all right.
And I want to give one last little quick shout out here to our small colleges out there in the U.S. One of the players that was an undrafted free agent by Tennessee is Anthony Kendall, defensive back out of Baldwin Wallace, a small private college in Ohio.
Oh, all right. Good for him. All right, on we go to the Indianapolis Colts. They also had quite a few picks this year. They had 12 picks in this year's draft. Again, you know, remind me a little bit of the Jags a little bit. You know, they were really all over the place. Obviously, their most important pick was the 4th overall pick in the first round. Their quarterback, Anthony Richardson from Kentucky. And I know I've already heard really good things out of their camp regarding what they think of him. He's been doing a lot of good things there, so hopefully some good things ahead for him. Guys, you got any thoughts on the Colts draft class?
It was a little shock to see Richardson go off the board before Levis for me. I've heard that he was going to be the number 3 quarterback for a little while, and then when that happened, I was like, oh wow, okay. But then how far Levis actually fell, that was more shocking. And then the rest of their draft picks were kind of pretty much what they kind of needed to do a little bit. They got 2 people from Northwestern with their 4th round pick. Dash, can you say that for me?
I don't even know if I could say it. I think I'm just going to call him Adi.
Or okay, I'll just call him Double A.
Double A, yeah, there you
go. That's a pretty unique name there. And then the running back Evan Hull from the 5th round from Northwestern, and then another small college here for Indianapolis is Titus Leo from Wagner, an inside linebacker.
Yeah.
Don't forget about Jake Witt from Northern Michigan, D2 college.
Yep.
I think I can. Let me try to pronounce. I think it's Adetomiwa Adebawore. I believe it's how you pronounce that name.
Is that Hawaiian?
That works for me.
I don't think so.
No, I think we have someone from Hawaii coming up in a little while.
I'm gonna just copy it and see what it is.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think the Colts had a good draft. Obviously, their biggest need was their quarterback, and they got that. So.
Yep.
Nope.
There's still a lot of rebuilding. There's still a lot of rebuilding to be done here. I mean, this team's not going to be good for a few years, I think. But with the right rebuilding, I think they can definitely make an Anthony Richardson era a good one.
Yeah.
If they played their cards right.
Yep.
Nope. He's from Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, okay. All right. On we go to the Houston Texans. They hope to make this year a better year.
Chaos incarnate in the draft this year.
Yeah. Yep. The Texans had a rather interesting draft, I think, compared to most. They had only 9 picks, but what they did with those 9 actual picks was quite a bit. They were one of the. I think it's been a while since we've seen this. So they had the second overall pick. They picked C.J. Stroud, their quarterback out of Ohio State. They're a quarterback of the future with that pick. The interesting thing is then they traded with Arizona to get all the way up back to third overall and picked Will Anderson Jr., an outside linebacker from Alabama. And from there, it was kind of more standard from there. But it was just really interesting to see them do all of that just in the first few picks of the draft.
I would say they're not messing around anymore with that type of strategy. They want their players, and they want to show them off and play them well, I guess, to see if they actually get. And then maybe they'll finally turn it around, being the fourth place team in this division for a long time.
Yeah. Dash, you got anything?
Yeah, I like what D'Amico Ryans is doing here. I like the aggressiveness that this team has. We haven't seen this for a while out of the Texans, and it's good to see from them. Will Anderson Jr. might be the best player who's non-quarterback in this draft. So Texans definitely have a few needs. So why not go up and trade up for possibly the best player in the draft?
Yeah. So definitely a lot of trades the Texans have made to get this far, but I think this draft puts them in a better place now than they were probably 2-3 years ago. So good for them.
I'll also give what?
Go ahead.
Oh, also give a lot right now to see Cody talk about their 5th round.
Damn
pick.
it! I was about to mention that too.
That's what I figured you were gonna go for.
I was gonna say, inside linebacker from Alabama, Henry. Tuatu.
To'ato. I believe it's pronounced To'ato.
To'ato. That sounds like an Autobot name. I would say he was a pretty good inside linebacker for Alabama. He played really well under Nick Saban. But I'll just
Cody
say that.
likes him for his name. Yep.
Yep.
All right. On that, we are going to swiftly move to the AFC West. We're going to start with the Super Bowl winning Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs didn't have a lot of picks either this year. A lot similar to the Eagles.
Did they need them?
Exactly. They didn't really need picks this year. They did really well even after last summer when we thought they would kind of take a step back maybe. Maybe not be as good as they have been just because of the people they lost. But they did a lot better this year and won the Super Bowl. And then their draft shows it. I mean, they didn't really need to do much in the draft. I think their defensive end they got at the end of the first round, people were really happy about that one, especially given the draft was in Kansas City this year. So I'm sure the fans really enjoyed
hometown
that
kid.
one. Yeah, just from nearby Manhattan. So, yeah, I think a good draft for Kansas City. What do you guys think?
I mean, they did what they needed to do. I mean, like I mentioned, they really didn't need to do much in the draft this year. They kind of have a loaded roster already. But getting a guy like Felix on a DK Uzama, defensive end from Kansas State, who, like you mentioned, played in Manhattan, who is from Kansas City, just, bringing that hometown atmosphere, I think. But I think he's going to be a great player, though. They need some help with Frank Clark on the defensive line or a defensive end. I mean, a lot more of what they did was in who they got as well this year. They got Mike Edwards from Tampa Bay. They got Donovan Smith as well from Tampa Bay. They got Richie James. Oh, and, a lot of people keep forgetting they also got Lamar Jackson as well. Not the offensive Lamar Jackson, the defensive Lamar Jackson.
It's like Josh Allen and Josh Allen.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Cody, you got anything on the Chiefs draft class? Cody's chatting with some people quick, but you got anything on the Chiefs draft class, Cody?
Well, there is one FCS person from Stephen F. Austin in the 5th round. Did you guys already mention that?
No.
Nope.
Good catch.
Oh,
No, I'm leaving that for you. That's your thing.
BJ Thompson, not Johnson. Outside linebacker from Stephen F. Austin. The one game that I remember watching Stephen F. Austin play last year, they won 98-0. It was a big blowout. Well, I think Thompson really helped out with that game.
Yeah. All right. Well, on we'll move out to the West Coast on to LA, the Chargers. Those that don't know how to play in their own stadium. Here's their draft class. Only 7 picks again. They got a couple of wide receivers. Their first round pick Quentin Johnson out of TCU, and then also Terrius Davis from TCU. And then I also want to mention their last pick was another TCU pick, QB Max Duggan from TCU, someone that came on the radar really late this year. Even though TCU did really well, not many people attributed it to him a lot until towards the end of the year. But someone I think that could fly under the radar as a possible surprise. Last year was Brock Purdy. This year maybe it's Max Duggan. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, personally, I think they did a great job in terms of getting wide receivers to help out Justin Herbert. I mean, Quentin Johnston, I've watched film on him. He reminds me a lot of Randy Moss when he came out of Marshall. Very tall wide receiver, very good at getting contested catches, downfield threat, and just overall a going to be a very important key to this offense. And they already have Mike Williams, who's probably, in my opinion, the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL. You got Keenan Allen, who, while he's a little bit older, still has a lot of talent left in him. And now you got Quentin Johnston and possibly Darius Davis as well to really help this offense out. And my only concern for this was I was a little surprised for the lack of interior defense that they drafted in this draft. I figured they were going to go more interior D-line. They did get Scott Malik in the 6th round, but I figured that they were, or Scott Matlock, excuse me, in the 6th round, but I figured they were going to go earlier for interior defense. They did get Tuli Polatu in the 2nd round and Dayan Henley in the 3rd, which are both linebackers. And they also got Eric Kendricks from the Vikings in free agency as well.
Yeah, definitely. You hope the Chargers are on the right track, although you never know until the playoffs if they choke it away. So, Cody, you got anything on the Chargers?
Don't charger it.
Good advice. Always excellent advice from Cody.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, after last season, it's valid advice. All right, I'll move to the Las Vegas Raiders, who are broke. Here's their draft class. They had 9 picks this year. Guys, what do you think of Josh McDaniels' draft class?
I mean, definitely not the flashiest draft ever, but I honestly think it's definitely better than any draft era that John Gruden had back in the day. Tyree Wilson, decent defensive end out of Texas Tech, and probably the replacement to Chandler Jones, who did not do much at all last year other than the touchdown in the Patriots game. And then they got one of the better tight ends in the draft in Michael Mayer, which I like that pick for them as well. So, I mean, they had some good picks in there, but I mean, it's going to take more than just this draft to fix them because obviously we know that Derek Carr is gone. He's in New Orleans now. And they got Jimmy Garoppolo from San Francisco. So they're going to have to start this year out with Garoppolo at quarterback.
Unless they want to put in the rookie Aiden O'Connell from Purdue, which they got in the 4th round, but I do not think that will be happening. They might just have O'Connell as a backup behind Garoppolo, since Garoppolo has pretty much led the 49ers to playoff victory, except for this last year when he got hurt.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, people also forgetting right now, too, Devontae Adams, not exactly happy with this organization at the moment.
No, he's not. Although he did say the other day that the reason he really wanted to go to the Raiders is because he wanted to be known as an identity other than Aaron Rodgers. So I think that's valuable right there.
Yeah, it's just right now under that Josh McDaniels offense, I don't know how much better you're going to get. You're kind of stuck when you got him running the offense.
I feel like this Josh McDaniels-led team is going to be on an NFL 30 for 30 one day where they're trying to figure out what the heck happened to the Raiders. They can't get rid of them because they have too much dead money. What was their breaking point?
Yep.
Yeah, they have too much dead money. They can't pay anybody. So
where's the Raiders? It's supposed to be dead money.
They're in Vegas, baby.
Vegas, baby.
Can't go against the house when the house is the house.
All right, guys. Are you ready for one of the smallest draft classes this year for a team that really, even though the team that really needed it? The Denver Broncos, y'all. They got 5 total picks. A team that was terrible last year.
That's what happens when you put all your draft capital into Russell Wilson
Now, one could say that this year with
and
a
Sean
different
Payton.
with better coaches, they might just inherently do better. But one could
Well,
also be concerned that they have next to no draft capital at all and don't really have anything to trade to get draft capital. So, yeah, they're kind of in a little trouble. They didn't have a first round pick, obviously. With their first pick in the draft, then at the end of the second round, they got Marvin Mims, a wide receiver at Oklahoma. Dash, you want to say some more on the rest of their draft picks?
Yeah, I mean, you got to draft based on whatever need they have right now. After they got wide receiver Marvin Mims, they went defense for the rest or for most of the rest of the way. Got Drew Sanders, linebacker from Arkansas, Riley Moss, defensive back from Iowa, and JL Skinner, safety from Boise State. Just trying to shore up that defense as much as they can right now. And not like it's not because the defense was bad last year. The defense was actually amazing last year. They lost a couple of pieces of that defense, but they're just trying to patch up any holes where they see fit. And they hope that Sean Payton can just fix this offense with what they have there because they do have pieces there. They still got Jerry Jeudy there, but they just need to work on getting this offense fixed. Hopefully, Javonte Williams can come back and play really well after having that ACL tear last year as well.
Yeah. Cody, you got anything on the Broncos?
It's kind of going to be interesting to see what Wilson and Peyton will be doing this year. See if Wilson actually gets back to his prime days from Wisconsin or during Seattle's first couple of years. And maybe the center from Oregon, Alex Forsyth, will help him out a little bit because the Broncos definitely needed some O-line.
All right. With that, we're going to move over to the AFC East. We're going to start with the Buffalo Bills, who had a kind of more of a disappointing finish in the divisional round against the Bengals. There's their draft class. Just 6 players. I think Buffalo's problems lie more in free agency and in coaching rather than in the draft, per se. But what do you guys think?
I was a little surprised to see they went tight end in the first round, considering they already have Dawson Knox. But I mean, I guess it doesn't hurt to have that 1-2 punch at tight end, getting Dalton Kincaid, and also it helps everybody kind of dunk on Cowboys fans. So that's always nice to have. And then they got Osiris Torrance to help that offensive line in the second round, and then Dorian Williams to help Matt Milano in that linebacking core on the defense. So, I mean, I don't know how much you can do with the draft right now if you're the Bills. You got a lot of positions already filled. It's just like you mentioned, a matter of, kind of coaching and getting that team together at the right time.
Yeah.
Hopefully Hamlin will be back for the whole season this time.
Sounds like he's planning on returning. So that's good news for Buffalo. But
I mean, they did get a lot of pretty good players in free agency. They got Connor McGovern from Dallas. They got David Edwards, Taylor Rapp. I mean, they got quite a few decent players in free agency.
yeah, you mentioned the whole thing about tight ends. Well, you can never beat the Bears record for the amount of tight ends on the active roster. So as long as they're under that, they're doing fine.
Do you guys think they're running out of time here soon with the team they built up?
I think they're getting closer because, maybe Josh Allen isn't very old. He's still very young yet. Some of their other pieces are kind of getting up there a little bit. Like Stephon Diggs isn't getting any younger. I know he's still pretty good. I don't even know how old he is right now. I think he's in his really early 30s or late 20s. But, he's getting up there, but they still got a few years yet, at most, probably, before they have to redo the whole thing again. But
big piece of that defense, though, Von Miller, he ain't getting any younger.
yeah.
And, I mean, I don't know if he's going to play out that entire contract. And I honestly, with Buffalo, I give them about 3 more seasons. If they don't at least make it to a Super Bowl in the next 3 years,
It'll be a waste.
It's going to have to end.
Yeah.
Which is very unfortunate because this is a very promising core that they have built up here.
They built a really good team.
Yeah, it's just kind of a bummer, though, at the same time. Well, they built a great team. Teams like Kansas City and Cincinnati have also built great teams. They just can't get past them.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts, guys, before we move on to the smallest draft class ever? All right. On to the Dolphins. So the Dolphins, of course, had a lot of run-in with the NFL police before the season began. So they had to forfeit their first round pick. So therefore, given they didn't trade for anything else, they only had 4 total picks in this year's draft. By far the smallest class in this year's draft. Even though I would argue they might have needed some more picks. Even just a couple more picks, But curious what you guys think about that.
I mean, they didn't get a lot in the draft, that's true. But they also got some big pieces in free agency. You got probably one of the best corners in the NFL, and Jalen Ramsey. They got him to come over, so I think that was a big win for them in the free agency. But I think also a lot of the questions with this team right now kind of relies on Tua, and especially how they mismanaged all of his injuries last year. Is he going to be the same guy heading into the season, or has the mismanagement by this Dolphins team forced him to take a step back? I hope that's not the case, but
I mean,
it could very well likely be the case.
I remember saying in our 22 season review that I was of the mindset that given how many injuries and in where he had the injuries, I'm of the mindset that maybe Tua should be done playing football. So I'm curious to see what happens this year. If he does come back to the NFL, bless him, because that is going to be hard. And especially if there's ever another head injury, you have to wonder if he even should keep playing.
Yeah, but even if something like that happens, or if Tua decides to stop playing, they got the legend himself, Mike freaking White.
Yes.
I don't know.
Legend.
Yeah.
Cody, you got anything on the Dolphins draft class?
As long as the coach doesn't smoke a vape on the field, they'll be good.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, Dolphins. See, did Tyreek Hill? How long is he there in Miami?
I believe he has. Well, he's got. I think his contract's up at the end of the 2025 season, so he's got 3 more years. And yeah, I kind of forgot about that little announcement he made about his career.
Yeah, that after this year, he's done, I think, right?
I'm taking it with a grain of salt right now. I mean, I would love to see in 3 years what he's going to say about that, because we don't know what's going to happen with this Dolphins team. They could kind of underwhelm these next 3 years, and he could be unsatisfied and still want a championship somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, he's already got one, but
he got signed for a 4-year contract with the Dolphins.
Yeah. But yeah, his announcement was that after his contract was up, he was going to retire. But all right, well, let's move on to the New England Patriots. The Patriots hope to make the playoffs this year with 12 total picks. Bill Belichick really trying to work the draft like he always has. So expect a lot of these guys to do pretty well in the NFL, even if it's not always with the Patriots. Another thing is Dash. I think the highest kicker there was this year was in the 3rd round, right? The Michigan kicker.
Yes. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, and then we had a Maryland kicker go towards the beginning of the 4th round. I will say New England's had some struggles with kicking the last couple of years, so probably really good for them. As well as, something surprising to me, you always got to trust Bill Belichick in his picks, which makes me intrigued. He picked 2 FCS players in this draft. One of them pretty high. In the 3rd round, or in the middle part of the 3rd round, they picked Marte Mapu, an inside linebacker from Sacramento State. I've seen them play on TV quite a few times, so good for them. Although I remember being a little confused because Sacramento State's defense this past year was not their strength. But the other big FCS pick they did is their last pick in the 7th round, cornerback Isaiah Bolden out of Jackson State. So just kind of cool for them to go get their chance in the NFL. What do you guys think?
Their 1st round pick with Christian Gonzalez didn't they trade up to get him?
Yeah,
the Patriots. Yeah, I was gonna say that they pretty much wanted him outright. As a couple of teams, I think, were gonna go after him after.
Well, they actually traded that 1st round pick back because Pittsburgh traded.
Okay,
I just didn't know if they traded up or down.
Well, they still got what they wanted out of
them.
Yep,
absolutely.
because I know their cornerbacks kind of been struggling recently in these last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
Well, and considering that McCourty just retired as well, they definitely needed a replacement there.
Yep.
But yeah, Christian Gonzalez, a great pickup, probably the second best corner behind Witherspoon, who went to Seattle. And yeah, I mean, they got a lot of picks this year, but also a lot of important players, I think, in free agency, a lot of underrated pickups. They got Juju Smith-Schuster from Kansas City, definitely will help the wide receiver room. Mike Gesicki, probably the best free agent tight end from Miami. They got Riley Reef to help the offensive line. And they also, to replace Demetrius Harris, they got James Robinson to hopefully finally get used in an offense. Hopefully in New England.
Use him. He's such a good running back.
Let's hope so. Dash, I have a question for you. What was the last big player from Liberty you remember?
Malik Willis.
Last big player?
Well,
yeah, I mean,
he hasn't really made a name for himself in the NFL yet, though.
Oh, okay.
So,
that made a name in the NFL. I honestly couldn't tell you off the top of my head a player from Liberty that's really made an impact in the NFL.
Well, Demario Douglas hopes to change that. The second to last 6th-round pick for the Patriots this year. So, all right. Any final thoughts on the Patriots before we move on to our last team?
Is their 4th-round pick Jake Andrews the only person from Troy that was drafted this year?
I believe so. I don't remember seeing any other Troy guys. There might have been an undrafted free agent, but
I was going to say Troy had a very good football season this last year, so I thought I would see more of that.
Maybe not a lot of them are seniors. So, all right. Well, let me move to the New York Jets. We already, of course, talked about the most impactful thing for the Jets this year, their trade with Green Bay to receive, above all everything else, Aaron Rodgers. So, of course, they had then that 15th overall pick this year from the Packers. And with that, they used that to pick an outside linebacker, Will McDonald, the 4th from Iowa State. Anything else? Or what do you guys think on their draft class this year?
I'll let you talk about. I was gonna say I'll let you talk about your Wisconsin guy.
Oh, you were reading my mind, but yeah, they got a pretty good center in Joe Tippmann, who actually got picked ahead of the Minnesota center, which actually did surprise me a little bit. I didn't think that Tippmann was going to go that high, but he actually didn't play center at Wisconsin. He played guard most of the time, but had to get moved to center a couple of times. But I think he could be a very quality NFL center. Also, the continuing of the run of players getting drafted from Pitt this year. You got Carter Warren and Israel Abani-Kanda, who was a running back from Pitt. So, I mean, just continuing the run of a ton of players getting drafted from Pitt this year. And, you know, like you mentioned, Nate, the Jets are really focused their whole offseason on getting Aaron Rodgers. They focused on getting him all summer, and this team has the roster to go far this year. They already had the roster built up last year, but the only thing that was missing was a quarterback, and they got that quarterback now. They have great wide receivers. They got a great running back in Breece Hall. I think this team should be really good this year, and I'll be excited to see what they can do to finally end this kind of curse that they've had since 1969 and Super Bowl III.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that. It took a while, but I agree with that. Cody, you got anything on the Jets?
Other than one of the guys is named after a shoe brand.
Which one would that be?
Bernard Converse.
Yeah.
They also got themselves an offensive lineman, Brett Lang from Minnesota Duluth.
Oh, yeah, really?
Undrafted free agent. Yep.
Nice. That's cool.
Awesome. Well, you guys got anything more on the Jets? All right. Well, then just to wrap up there, thank you all for watching our 12th episode of the Northern Lights Sportscast. Now we're done talking about the draft. I don't know what we're going to do next week, but we'll figure something out. But
baseball.
Maybe. We'll see. All right. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.